let's say he has another really bad year and he's gone next year or right after that, then you're thinking the over. So I don't know where I am.
I'm reaching in my pocket. I'm betting the over right now.
So I don't know. That's a tough call. I'm rooting for him, and because I'm rooting for the Cats. I'll know more in a couple of months, maybe.
You'll know by December.
It doesn't look good right now. If you were to put a knife to my throat and say you got to take one or the other right now, I'm taking the over.
The over, yes. Smart man.
But it's fun. I mean, these things are fun to talk about. I was looking at the non-conference schedule over the next few years, and you can kind of tell Arizona's up the game a little bit. When Mike Stoops was here, we had some of those games.
Mm-hmm.
We had Iowa. We played, had home and homes with Iowa, home and homes with Oklahoma State. Rich Rod got the secend half of that one.
That was an unbelievable game.
That was a great game. Rich Rod's first year.
Mm-hmm.
Arizona played Ohio State and Dick Tomey's last year, and that was a great game. Arizona lost, but it was a really good game.
We talked about the Oklahoma game back in the late 80s. You
right,
and I were
they had
there.
home and home with Oklahoma back in the day, and again there was the Notre Dame one. They came and played here in Larry Smith's first year, 1980. Then went back there in '82, and then Arizona beat them.
Mm-hmm.
And that was one of the historic games, one of the landmark games of the time Larry Smith's time here. It still sticks in my brain as that. What a great game that was.
Right. Let me throw a curve real quickly. We have about 2 minutes left in this segment before we talk to Bob Baffert. When was the last time you lost $4 billion?
I don't even know what that looks like. But yeah, I saw that news. If there's no college football, Power 5 teams was $4 billion. They said on average $62 million per school.
Yeah.
And I know it's not that much for Arizona because Arizona generates a large amount of its revenue from basketball, one of the higher end ones. But I think Arizona's still in the $50 million range if it doesn't play football. That's why when Dave Hickey was talking the other day, he said, not playing football is not an option.
Right.
It's not an option.
Well, because it wipes out everything else.
It wipes out everything else.
Yeah.
So much of everything relies on whether or not they have football. All of college athletics crumbles if there's no football.
And that doesn't include, well, obviously an audience, but you were talking about this yesterday or the day before, how people were talking, or at least one source said that they can survive on the TV.
Right. So, somebody said that the Kansas State athletic director said that TV revenue would allow the programs to survive if you had to play games with no fans. And so that's why I say they're going to play the games.
Yeah.
There may be some adjustments as to when and whether or not they're going to be fans, but they have to play the games.
Yeah. Okay. With that, we're going to take a quick break, get a hold of Bob Baffert, and talk sports horse racing here on 1030 The Voice.
We're Tucson's station for local news and talk. 1030 The Voice.
Time to update those old kitchen cabinets? Call the Window Depot today. The Window Depot is not only the #1 warehouse for windows and doors, we now have a great selection of kitchen and bath cabinets at Tucson's best prices. The Window Depot is Tucson's top spot for granite and quartz countertops to finish the new kitchen or the replacement of that old worn-out Formica. So call us today at 290-8545 or 622-6430. The Window Depot, windows, doors, granite, and new kitchens.
1030 The Voice. In times of crisis, information is vital.
Newsweek columnist Lee Habib wrote an article, a one-size-fits-all reopening makes no sense.
Numbers tell a story.
Yes.
How many people are dying per 100,000? The death rate in New York City is 119 per 100,000. Los Angeles, Dallas, and Houston were 6, 3, and 2. That's a risk I can bear.
Trusted local news and talk about coronavirus. 1030 The Voice.
In a time of travel on steamships and trains, the Spanish flu crossed the Atlantic and the country. It swept through Arizona one dark autumn and hit Native American and impoverished mining communities with a particular vengeance. State officials underreported deaths at 519. That number didn't even come close to the real story. 1918, The Forgotten Pandemic, on the Tucson History Podcast from 1030 The Voice, on Google Play, Apple Podcasts, and KVOI.com.
Trusted local news and talk. 1030 The Voice.
Hey, welcome back to Eye on the Ball here on 1030 The Voice. I'm Steve Rivera alongside Jay Gonzales. And now on the phone we have the esteemed Bob Baffert. Bob, how are you?
Fine, thank you.
Great, great. What's for dinner? I hear you're cooking.
Well, my job is to make the rice, but I'm having a little bit of trouble with it, the cooker. She's got these fancy stoves there, and I don't know how to work them. So I got to figure it out.
Okay. Hey, so I was telling Jay, you were my first guest on my first show about 18 months ago. Welcome back. How's having horse racing back at Santa Anita for you?
Oh, it's so good to have it back. I was really worried there for a little bit. And, there's a lot of jobs back there that were at risk, but we got it going. It's still, the owners can't come out, no fans, and so it's not the same. So, until we get, maybe phase, whatever they call it, maybe once the restaurants open up, maybe we might get some more action.
Hi, Bob. This is Jay Gonzales. It's a pleasure to meet you. So tell us what your thoughts are on the Triple Crown races. It's backwards. You got Belmont. It's not the same Belmont. I mean, how's that going to work for you guys?
Well, I think it's going to be, I think the Belmont, there'll be some good horses in there. They won't have them all in there, but it's different. But I'm just, I think we're just happy that they're even having them, because it was looking pretty bleak there a couple months ago, like it wasn't going to happen, and you just worry about, what are you going to do with these high-powered horses? You have, you got really good horses, all this money into them, and you can't run those classics. So I think it's going to be. The Preakness, if there's a horse that wins the first two, should be pretty exciting. But I think they're going to be very competitive races, because there's a lot of time in between, so it's not going to be like, usually after the Derby, the Preakness has about 10, 11 horses, and maybe one or two are decent. The rest are just running. So they're going to be pretty competitive.
So we've all known that Bob Baffert kind of owns the first week of May for the number of last years, and you did it again this year with two great bullets, one Nadal and Charlatan. Those two look pretty good for the Triple Crown this year.
No, they're really good horses. Actually, I have three really good horses right now. I have those two, and I have Authentic, who's going to be running June 6th in Santa Anita Derby, who's a really good horse too. So it's fun, but it's unfortunate. I had them right on schedule for the May race, but hey, we just got to deal with what you have.
So how does preparation change for these races? Because when you had, with the old scheduling, you had these three races were compressed pretty tightly. Now you've got this gap. So what do you do different in terms of getting the horses ready for these races?
Well, I just backed off on some of them, what I do. So I just sort of go backwards from those dates. Mainly, we go back from the Kentucky Derby, which is the main race that we're looking at. So what we do is that's going to be running September the 5th. So what I do is I back it up to make sure they'll have a race before that, prep them. So we want the September 5th is going to be like that's the big kahuna, So we're all looking at that. And then for the Preakness is like a month later, so whichever ones are fitting that one will run.
How does that affect the breeders in a month after that?
I don't think it's going to have a big effect on it, because they would have had a prep race in October anyway. So the older horses, the 3-year-olds won't run against the older horses until the Breeders' Cup.
Go ahead.
It's a long year too, because you have to keep them healthy, just like these teams, and you got to keep your horses healthy. So it's not. We got a long way to go.
So we had Steve Kerr earlier this week talking, about the Chicago Bulls and his success with the Warriors, and I'm telling Jay here, I says, I don't know if I'd want to come back as Steve Kerr for a weekend or Bob Baffert for a weekend. What a weekend that would be! And then I said to myself, here's a guy who has maximum security now in his barn. How's that been?
Yeah, we just got him in a few weeks ago. He looks good. I mean, he came in good shape, and poor horses, got some bad press behind him, but we're going to get him going, and hopefully you'll see him at Del Mar. Maybe he'll run there or out of I'm not sure what I'm going to do with him yet, but I'm just trying to figure him out. He'd been turned out, so he was on vacation for about 45 days, and so we're getting him ready. But I have some other older horses like Mackenzie.
Yes,
he's coming back. He's going to be running June 6th. He's getting ready to make a big stand this summer, and he looks fantastic.
I had Mackenzie. I think we talked about this. I had Mackenzie before I had Justify, and then when they had to shelve Mackenzie, well, where am I to go but Justify?
I'm telling you what, Mackenzie, when I really thought I was going to win the Kentucky Derby with him, and then he got hurt, and just luckily Justify, he was like a walk-on, and he breaks his maid, and he just carried the water. But what a horse he was! 112 days to do that, you'll never see that again. It was incredible.
Okay, so Bob, I'm a little bit. I followed horse racing for a long time, and in fact, I read the book about Secretariat, and I was fascinated by the whole bloodlines and breeding process, and how that book went all the way back to the very beginning, and how Secretariat came about. So I've got a few extra bucks. I want to get a horse. How does somebody get Bob Baffert to train their horse? What's the process for that?
Well, I mean, I still take owners, new clients, and they, it depends what there's some guys that are, I deal with like high-end races, and that doesn't mean the horse has to be a certain price, whatever. You can, I've won the Derby with $17,000 horses, but usually clients that want to play at the top end, they want to, so they usually, they want to buy horses that are pretty well bred, and because where the money is made is in the sale ring. Like these horses, like a horse like Mackenzie, and you buy them, you bought him for $170,000, but he's worth, $12-15 million when they do well, and that's where a lot of these guys make. It's amazing the money for it's in the breeding rights of these horses, and so that's why you might spend ridiculous money, but you're gonna get it back in. So
wasn't the $17,000 horse the Real Quiets of the world?
Yeah, he was $17,000, which was it's hard to. I mean, Silver Charm, he was $80,000.
Yeah,
and he made about. I think he made like $7 million, or it was some ridiculous amount. Right. But and then they sold him for $10 million. So it's one of those things where, if you deal in the high end stuff, you can make it. But then there's another level of just having fun and buying a horse and watching it run and break its mane, or breed. You can breed it and buy a mare, and that's the long haul. That's sort of a tougher. You get lucky. California Chrome. These guys like.
Yeah.
They bought the mare for $8,000, and they breed it to a stallion there for $2,500 or whatever, and they get this great horse. So there's different ways of getting there.
Speaking of all that, you have two great clients, at least friends of mine, the Car Boys. Do they have any bullets this year? Any guys?
The boys, those are the best guys. Paul Whiteman, Carl Watson, Watson Chevrolet, and Paul Whiteman. Buick. They own Mackenzie. They got Mackenzie, and they've got they've got a nice horses coming up, 2-year-old. So, they had Looking at Lucky to win the Preakness, and he should have won the Derby, but he got a really bad trip.
Mm-hmm. And they've had you with some great names. Obviously Midnight Loot, the fastest horse around at that day. Candrea, Hot Sean. There might be
Hot
another.
Hot Sean was a little bit of a disappointment.
no comment. No comment.
Candrea, it was okay. I said Midnight Loot. He was like, he ran like his namesake. He was a champion, and but it's really, it's fun. I met him through my brother Bill, the
Yes.
real estate. He should be mayor of Tucson. And Bill brought them to me. I got these great guys. They're a lot of fun. They're a lot of fun.
Right.
Most of my clients, they're in it. They want to compete at the top end, but they want to have fun. They really enjoy it. They have a lot of passion for it because a lot of ups and downs, and there's, you lose more than you win, so you better have the heart for it.
Well,
we all know that.
I know all about that. I really know all about that.
Well, we also had one called The Stoops. If you're going to put Sean in that box, how was The Stoops?
Hey, the Stoops did great. We bought him for, I think we only gave like $90,000 for him.
Only 90,000.
Yeah, but for a thoroughbred, and he made I want to say he made about $600,000. I think they sold him for like $2 million. It was ridiculous, but they, but Stoops has been in Midnight Loot. They were big, and Looking at Lucky was named after Carl Watson. Great story. He's with Mike Pegram, and they're going to be partners. And they were having a party. It was somebody's birthday. We were at Carl's house, and he told Mike. He says, and he had a few little toddies there, and he said, Mike, I know you've been lucky. You've been doing won a lot of big races, but you're looking at lucky right here. And Mike Pegram, so we got to name him for it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's how he got his name.
And over the last few years, some of the best years in your life, obviously, with American Pharaoh, Justify. I mean, come on, how did this kid from Nogales, become
Douglas.
this guy? I'm sorry, got you in the wrong area.
No, I used to run at Douglas. Believe me, I like Douglas. Douglas is okay. But it's one of those things where, I never thought of it as it was my father's dream, and so he loved horses and he had a passion for it, and I just had to be at a young age, and I went with him, and I remember the first track I went to was Sonoyta, Arizona. That to me, that was the first Saturday in May. That was our derby, to be at Sonoyta, and then going to Relito every weekend with him when I was like 12 years old, and hanging out there and seeing all these old timers and stuff. So Relito has that's where I got started, and every time I go to Tucson, I always drive by there just to check it out. A little nostalgia and get out and look at it, and so it's one thing of Arizona, Prescott, Arizona, all those little I used to hit all those little places, man. It was a dirt road to the Derby.
At what point, Bob, was this going to become a job, a life for you? I mean, I know you went to the U of A and went through the horse racing program there, but at some point you decided this is what I'm going to do.
I was 27 years old when I decided that's what I was going to do. I tried to be a jockey first when I was 18, 19, and that I was too big and I just wasn't good enough, and so I toyed with it, went to school. I didn't know what I wanted to do, and then finally at 27 I decided, I'm going to do this, and so I started out. My dad set me up, and he had a few horses, and I just started with one horse and just build itself up. Pretty soon I had at Relito I had 40 horses there.
Yeah.
And so, right on the weekend, it was just a lot of fun growing up in Tucson.
Bill, Bob, can you stick around after the break, talk about the good old days?
Sure.
Let's do that. Let's just take a quick break here on 1030 The Voice.
CBS News at the top and bottom of every hour. 1030 The Voice, Tucson's trusted local news and talk.
This is a Bloomberg Money Minute. Businesses may be opening up again, but almost 2.5 million more workers applied for first-time jobless benefits last week. That gave investors pause, though it wasn't the main reason the stock averages fell 0.4 to 1%. The Dow down 102, the Nasdaq 91, the S&P 23. That had to do with more words back and forth with China over the pandemic and security measures in Hong Kong. Investors are worried the trade deal worked out with China won't hold. One money manager says the pandemic and the ensuing economic downturn makes it more difficult for China to fulfill its promises to buy U.S. goods. Dell Technologies is signaling it's been hit by the weakening global economy. It'll stop contributing to workers' 401ks, and it's freezing hiring, promotions, and pay for the rest of the fiscal year. In retail, there are the haves and the department stores. Those stores didn't see enough shopping shift online to offset lost brick-and-mortar sales. Macy's says its first quarter sales fell by almost half. Joan Doniger, Bloomberg Radio.
CBS News update. The FBI says it was terrorism-related. Today's attack on the U.S. Naval Air Station, Corpus Christi, Texas. A gunman attempted to ram his way through the gate in his vehicle. When that didn't work, he opened fire on the gate's guard and was killed in an exchange of gunfire. FBI agent Lee agrees.
We are working diligently with our state, local, and federal partners on this investigation, which is fluid and evolving. The subject is deceased. We may have a potential second related person of interest at large in the community.
Correspondent Jeff Pegues.
CBS News has learned that the gunman has been identified tonight as Adam Al-Sali. Investigators are combing through electronic devices found at the scene as the FBI tries to determine if the suspect was inspired or directed by a terrorist organization.
A December attack on a Navy base in Florida left 3 sailors and the gunman dead. CBS News update. I'm Jim Shenevey.
These days, most families are concerned with having the right insurance coverage. Protecting your family, home, auto, and other valuable possessions can be challenging and sometimes expensive. Crest Insurance gives you flexible options and solutions while saving you money. Insurance is not one size fits all, and at Crest, we find the coverage that's best for you and your family. Visit us online at www.crestins.com or call us toll free at 888-881-5765.
If you like sitting around the porch or dinner table sharing stories with friends, that's what we like to do here at Our American Stories. I'm Lee Habib, and each weeknight we bring to you stories about American love, funny stories about first jobs, this day in history, American dreamers and marriages, and even the stories of music and acting legends. I invite you to sit around the porch with us as we share Our American Stories.
Evenings from 7 to 9 on 1030 The Voice, Tucson's trusted local news and talk.
This is The Voice, 1030, Tucson's trusted news and talk.
Hey, welcome back to Why on the Ball here on 1030 The Voice. I'm Steve Rivera alongside Jay Gonzales. And now on the phone, we still have Bob Baffert. Bob, real quick, we have a guy on the name is Joe. I think there's some connection. Joe, how are you?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
Fine, thank you. You have a quick question?
Yeah. Honored to speak with you, Mr. Baffert. My name is Joby Rapola. I'm not sure if you remember my dad from the fair circuit and from me working in the jocks room and at Rito. And
I remember.
You were running. Yeah. You were running horses, and I was working in the jocks room. This was probably 35-ish years ago. And we would travel all around the fair circuit to Sonoyta, to Prescott. We'd run in Prescott all summer long. And just growing up around the track and just watching your career flourish as it is, it's just been a complete honor. And I've always told people, I used to know that guy when he ran on the fair circuit with these $1,500, $2,500 claimers.
That was me. I hit them all with, and we ran for I remember the purse was like $600. I remember winning a purse of $300, and my 10% was $30. I mean, I had to go to Jack in the Box to celebrate.
Yeah, those are some great memories. I still go out to Rito and look at those grounds and kind of think about the races that I've seen there, some of the match races and things like that. Is just amazing. So again, it's an honor to watch you your career flourish as it is, and just go into the absolute top of the game.
Well, thank you.
Appreciate it. Thanks for the call, Joby. Really appreciate it. So Bob, you have a lot of connections to the Tucson area, obviously Southern Arizona. You were here not too long ago to watch a game. You and Billy in the front row with the Bob Uecker seats. How was that?
That was, that's the first time I've ever sat on the floor, and it was just a great experience. My brother Bill, he's always sitting there, and so I happened to be there for that university symposium. So I was there that night, and Todd Pletcher, he was there, and hung out with the president there at halftime and stuff, so an athletic director. So it was pretty cool to go back there. I remember going to school. I used to get in line when they had in the old the Bear Down Gym, the old Fred Snowden. Fred Snowden, they used to line up to get tickets. But it was pretty cool to be there. I, got to be like a top dog there for a little bit.
like Billy every game.
Well, you're in good company there. You see the president there, President Robbins is there, Terry Francona's got seats there. So you're in high company right there.
No, it's pretty cool, but because when you're that close, it's a totally different. As a matter of fact, I thought, man, I've never sat on the floor before, so that was and I had it. My brother Bill, he's the one that had to set it up for me.
It's a completely different game from down there, Bob. So you mentioned Todd Pletcher, another U of A guy. Are there a lot of U of A people running around in the industry? Guys who have come out of the program, do you know who they are? Do you see them? Is there any camaraderie there? Steve Kerr was talking about that from an NBA standpoint. Are there a lot of folks in the industry?
Yeah, there's quite a few. They a lot of them are in the office management, racing secretaries, different. They'll come up to me and they'll say, "Hey, Wildcat," and right away they get my attention, So, everywhere I go, they'll come up to me and say, "Hey, bear down," or something like that. So, to the crowd, but it's got a lot of people that have come through that. It's a pretty good system they have there. They pump out a lot of people that work in racing.
So the last time we talked, I said at the time I think that the Steve Kerr was out in the news a lot. He's still kind of out there. And I was thinking, who else? Well, Bob Baffert. You guys are kind of the Mount Rushmore of today because you're still out there doing and working your magic. Steve Kerr, Sean is doing what he's doing. There's no pressure in that, I'm sure, but it's kind of cool that a U of A guy is out there on the forefront.
Steve Kerr, I run into him once in a while at like Del Mar during the summer, and he's the nicest guy. He's very approachable, and he knows Paul Whiteman and Carl Watson, but he's always been he's always the same guy. He's had all those championship teams and all that. What a great coach. He was a great player. I remember watching him play and then to end up a great coach. That's pretty tough.
Bob, I promised my brother Ed I would tell this story, and he was at American Pharoah's first win at Del Mar and actually bet on him in a Quinella. Now the Quinella didn't come in because American Pharoah came in, but the other horse did not. But after American Pharoah won the Triple Crown, the next day he comes over to my house. He's got the picture that he took as he was sitting at the finish line. He's still got the program and he's still got the losing ticket. And I had to make this frame thing for him that he's got on his wall. So I told him I would be sure to tell you that story. But this is a roundabout way of asking you this question. When do you know you've got an elite horse like that? We were talking the other day about kids and they're athletes and they separate themselves from the other kids because they're so much better. But when do you recognize that you've got an American Pharoah or a Justify or a Kentucky Derby winner? How do you know that?
You know what? They'll tip you off just like any great athlete before we run them. When we start going past a half a mile, breezing them, working them like 5/8 of a mile, all of a sudden the really good ones, they don't get tired. They just keep going, and they like it. They do it effortlessly, And he showed a lot, but the first time I ran him, he sort of fell apart. He didn't run well at all. He was just a mess in the paddock. He got nervous. He got hot. He just was agitated, broke horribly, came out, was right there briefly and just stopped running. And you tell your brother that I was not there when he won that race.
Oh,
He got that on me.
oh, he'll be disappointed.
I had moved back. I was going to drive back down. He was in the futurity, and I threw him in there. He was a maiden, and he drew the 1, and I had to bring my son Bodie. He had to start school, so I had to be there for his first day in school. And we were going to drive down, and the traffic is just so bad. So I said, you know what, I'll watch it in here. And he ran. That day, when the way he won, I knew right there, wow, this horse is a lot better than I thought, I thought he was really good. He was a good horse, but that day he proved that. I knew that day he could win the Kentucky Derby. And you know what? And Victor Espinoza, he picked the mount up that day too. It was a last-minute thought to put him in that race, and because he'd run horrible the first time. So, he was. But my sister was there, who lives down there. She represented us in the winner's circle, very small winner's circle.
Bob, I've got a question.
Your brother could have got in the picture. It wouldn't have mattered.
Well,
down there.
He's bummed that. He was actually right there because he had some really great seats. It's a trip that he takes every year with a buddy of his that lives in the area, and they get some really great seats. So he's got another picture of the horse in the winner's circle, and he's pretty close by. But the one I framed for him was the one of the horse crossing the finish line.
Hey, all you have to do is just, if you went to the U of A, just come on down.
Don't do that. We're all going to be there.
I'll let him know. I'll let him know, and he's going to go be a pest.
Just say bear down.
Okay.
Bob, I've got a question for you. You obviously have had a very storied career, and you've done a lot, but was there a moment for you, and you told the story earlier about, you tried to be a jockey and all that, but what made you fall in love with horses in the first place? What was it? Did you have an aha moment?
You know what? When I was about 12 years old, I was hanging around there. My father, he had this gelding that was off the racetrack. He'd won like a couple of races. He wasn't that good, a quarter horse, and so I wanted to learn how to ride. He gave me this horse that I could use him, and so he was really tough to ride, and he was tough. And when I would get on him, he wouldn't go. He knew I was sort of scared of him. So it was one of these things where I just felt like I had to, it was one of those things where I wanted to get him to respect me, and he knew it. And finally one day it took me about 6 months, and I finally got the nerve to really, get after him and show him that who is the boss. And after that moment, I just fell in love with him. I couldn't wait to see that horse every day. And so we just sort of bonded. His name was Baffert, and he was just a beautiful horse, but that horse really is what got me into it, and just loved being around him. I mean, I'd come home from school, get on the bus, I just had to go brush him and take care of him, and so I bonded with that horse, and that made me really appreciate the horses, just their smell and just being around them, But that horse really got me involved.
How cool was it a few years back when you were the guy for game day?
You know what? That, of all the things I've done, that has got to be the most coolest thing ever. I mean, that was the way we went in there and being on there, being with those guys. They were they were fun. Usually you get a little bit nervous or something like that, but they made me feel really at ease, and it was something, I wish I could have stayed there, because if I had to get back, I had some big races, but it was fun to be with those guys. And to this day, Kirk Herbstreit, I talk to him all the time, and he actually owns a piece of a horse with us, so
oh, nice.
So I see those guys once in a while, but that was pretty awesome. I mean, that experience was pretty awesome.
You didn't miss much. I think they got crushed by UCLA that day.
They got hammered.
That was no fun.
Yeah, so I wish they would have picked, UTEP or somebody that day or something. But
in horse racing lingo, they never got out of the gate on that day.
That's one thing. When I always tell everybody, like U of A, we used to go on some of those road trips. U of A was always like the homecoming game, like USC, right. Something like that,
Yeah. So you've had all these great horses. So this is a hypothetical, and I know it might be a tough answer, but War Emblem, the Pharaoh, obviously, and Justify, and Cavalier, Silver Charm, if they all ran against each other, how would they finish?
Well, it depends how far they would be going. But they're all different. They're all different. Silver Charm was probably he was gritty. He loved competition. He was just like he just wouldn't let anybody pass him. And War Emblem, if he didn't have the lead, he'd get mad. He just wouldn't run. He was different. He would get out there by himself. He was tough to catch. But of my Derby winners, I think American Pharaoh and Justify, they're like those guys were. That's why they're Triple Crown winners. They're just a cut. They're superior animals. They can handle all that. But they have that extra gear, and so when I led them up to the Belmont for the Triple Crown, I knew there's always racing luck you have to worry about. But I knew if they got away from the gate clean, it was like okay. You bring them on, it's like leading Michael Jordan up there. All right, just go dunk it, will you? So, but I felt really, I knew I was bringing, I had them over the barrel, if they got away clean.
Well, Bob, today I finally got around to watching that virtual Triple Crown, Kentucky Derby, and I'm like, how do you feel about the fact that they put American Pharaoh in fourth place? I mean, I get it. Secretariat was going to win that race, but what the heck?
You know what? I knew Secretariat had to win it because he's like you just can't go against him. But I'd Justify. Matter of fact, I told Mike Smith after we were joking. I said he rode Justify. I said, Mike, you didn't get Justify out of the game. What happened? And he says, don't you remember? You fired me. I didn't ride him. And so, but it was sort of, It was a little hokey. But what are you going to do?
That was fun.
At the time, it was fun.
Right. Let me tell you this. We don't have about a couple minutes left. So about 25 years ago, I think it was, I spent some time with your parents. What great, your dad was a cut-up. Now I know where you got your humor from, but your dad and your mom were fantastic.
Well, thank you so much. Yeah, my dad, he was a character. And actually, my brother Bill, he's the funniest.
Yes.
Your brother Bill's a lot funnier than you, Bob. I said, no, he is. But they were great, and I just, I wish they could have been there for American Pharaoh. That's the only thing I was thinking about them the whole time, that they weren't there for the Triple Crown. They were there for those other races, and I didn't get to really. And I figured, they were up there watching. They were bringing them on, but I'm glad that I got to enjoy my horse racing with them. They were at the Derbies, big races, and they just really enjoyed it all.
Bob, we appreciate your time. Thanks a bunch. This was a lot of fun.
Guys, call me anytime, and don't forget, you need some realty. Give him a push, will you?
All right, we'll give him a call.
Nadal, I got Nadal winning it all. Here we go.
Nadal's the horse. He's tough.
Yes.
Thanks a bunch,
Thank you, Bob.
Right.
Appreciate
to meet
it.
You.
Got it.
Great, thank you. That was Bob Baffert, the great Bob Baffert, here on 1030 The Voice. Let's take a quick break and finish off this segment here on Thursday.
.1030 The Voice, Tucson's trusted local news and talk.
Go local. Make the switch. At Hughes Federal Credit Union, we offer customized solutions and get you what you need faster. Like our quick and easy credit cards and auto loans. All done online from start to finish. Save time using mobile banking, bill pay, mobile deposit, and mobile pay with just a few clicks. Live large, accessing 30,000 plus surcharge-free ATMs and free debit card choices. Make the switch to Hughes today. Visit hughesfcu.org/switch. Certain restrictions apply. Insured by NCUA.
It's your town. Get up and get involved.
Hey, it's Chris from Wake Up Tucson. Join us for a very busy Friday. Mark Van Buren with the movies of 2000 to 2009. Food Friday with the Angry Crab Shack. Ted Maxwell from the Southern Arizona Leadership Council. And the D.C. train keeps it moving. We have David Bernhardt, the Secretary of the Interior. Wake Up Tucson.
Weekday mornings, 6 to 9 on 1030 The Voice. Trusted local news and talk.
Tucson's source for trusted news and talk. 1030 The Voice.
Hey, welcome back to Eye on the Ball here on 1030 The Voice alongside Jay Gonzales. I'm Steve Rivera. That was a lot of fun for me.
That was a ton of fun. I love talking to him. That was, he said, again, just another one of those guys.
Right.
He's just, top of the game, as good as you can get, and then kind of just regular guys.
Exactly. He's the guy that, and you know these guys because you hang around with them and you're one of them. You're at a bar in Tucson somewhere. Come on, sit with us, and then you just tell stories all night.
Exactly. I love those guys. I could see myself having a beer with him and just sitting there and talking about the horse races and stuff like that, and that was a ton of fun.
Let me tell you, be prepared for getting name called. You know how when you're with your good friends, and they just, hey, Peanut, hey, Pepe, blah blah, and then you fight with each other, and then, hey, let's do this again tomorrow.
Yeah, that was so cool. That was so cool.
Yeah, that's why. No, you just gotta keep your eye on his horses.
Well, I'm gonna take a look now and see what we got, and get a chance to make some bets on some of his horses. I'm glad we're going to have these races.
Mm-hmm.
I always figure out a way to bet the Triple Crown races. So we'll keep an eye on what he's got, and he sounds pretty confident.
Yeah, but be prepared. Like I told you, I think yesterday or the day before, they're a little chalky because everybody's got a Bob Baffert.
I mean, you go to Santa Anita, or you go to Del Mar, and you start looking at the program, and you just bet on a Baffert horse every time, no matter what, and you just always do. And the rare times that that I've been able to do that, I do look for the Baffert horses, and so you just kind of. That's what you do. It's like, okay, I'm going to take the Yankees, I'm going to take the Dodgers, or whatever. You do take the chalk because you want to win.
Back in, I have the thing up. I had it up before. War Emblem was, I think, in the 2000s, and it was his horse. He was a long shot 20 years ago. It was the War. It was the mid. I'm thinking, he has no chance, and he pulls it off. I'm thinking, God was giving me a sign, and I didn't. He said, God just gave me a sign. Well, he was giving me a sign, and I just ignored it.
Well, one of my great stories is a time that we went to Santa Anita, and I was with my brothers. My brother Ed, who we mentioned, had seen American Pharoah at Del Mar. We're at Santa Anita, and Willie Shoemaker was running, and my brother said, I got to bet on Willie the Shoe. And he put all his money on Willie the Shoe. And they broke, and Willie the Shoe was nowhere to be found.
Really lost a shoe.
He came by so late. The horse finished last by I don't know how much, and my brother's like, why hasn't he retired? He needs to retire.
So the horse
I don't even know who the horse was, but he was so upset that he had this chance to bet on Willie Shoemaker.
The horse was dinner after that.
Exactly. And Willie the Shoe came in last, and so he was calling for his retirement after that.
Yeah, right.
One of the great stories, one of our great horse racing stories.
Yeah, so it's going to be soon in reverse order almost?
In reverse order, yeah, June 20th. That's not that far away. I think that's going to be right after PGA Tour gets going, so stuff is going to start happening. Now there aren't going to be any fans at this race, and those tracks hold 100,000 people,
right.
So that's going to be a little different. But we'll be able to watch it, we'll be able to bet on it, and it'll be fun to get that thing started. And you know what? I don't think anybody in horse racing really cares about. Well, is there going to be an asterisk if somebody wins a Triple Crown or whatever? Like Bob said, they're just happy to be racing.
Sure.
They're just going to be happy to be racing.
There's a bunch of degenerates out there.
Well, they are. They are, and we are that as well.
Right. So let me tell you, you talked about your brother's tickets and stuff. After Justify had won his thing, Billy helped me. I had $2 winning tickets, $2 win tickets on Pharaoh or Justify. I said, Billy, can you have him sign these for me? I'm not going to cash them. And I have them in my drawer.
Oh, that is so cool.
So they're worth more than $2 to me.
That's so cool. That is so cool. Yeah, like I said, my brother brought his stuff home, and he had this ticket, and it wasn't a winning ticket, but it was a $10 Quinella. But after the Triple Crown, he brought that stuff to me right away, and I made him one of those
Right.
frames with the 3 slots, and he's got it up in his house, and he talks about it all the time. And it's, again, if you're a sports fan and something like that happens, you want whatever little piece of it that you have.
Yeah.
The only thing I've got like that is that in the same calendar year, I covered the '88 Final Four, and then I covered the national championship football game that was played up at the Fiesta Bowl. It was Notre Dame and West Virginia, and I framed my two press passes together in a frame, and I had that hanging in my office for the longest time. It's just, when you're a part of something big, some sort of sports history like that, when you're not involved in it all the time and it's not a regular thing, you like having something like that to remember that by.
No question. I was just going to ask you, I have a lot of crap like that. A lot of people would say that. Do you have signed stuff? And when people get them signed, they kind of talk about, I can sell it for this, blah, blah, blah. To me, like those little tickets, they're priceless.
Right, you'll never sign them. I've got a couple of things. One, I've got the year after the Diamondbacks won the World Series, I played in a Diamondbacks spring training golf tournament, and as one of the tee gifts was they gave us a baseball, a Major League Baseball, with the World Series logo on it. I don't know if those were the baseballs they were using, but it sure looked like one. And I after the tournament was over, I went and got Luis Gonzales to sign it. And that's the only signature I got on it. And this one, I told you about my Fernando ball where the signature faded. This one I put in a case so that the signature would never go away, and I've got it. I didn't get it stamped. I'm not going to have it validated.
You got it.
That baby's mine.
Right.
And then the other thing I have, and it's something that I did for my son Adam, when we went to the '97 Final Four, I got one of my tickets signed by John Wooden. It turned out it was really funny. I had my seats were better than John Wooden's. I was like,
that's part of the story.
I'm in the tall cotton
that's
now,
part
right?
of the story.
So I during between games, I saw him up there. Nobody was bothering me, just kind of sitting there. So I went up and asked him to sign the ticket and to write "To Adam" on the back of the ticket. And so that I put in a frame with a picture of us at the Final Four, with the ticket showing John Wooden's signature, and then the pin, the Final Four pin. That's in a frame. That belongs to my son. And he was there. I mean, he was
like 5 or something like that.
4 years old.
Yeah.
He was about to turn 4 years old. So he was still pretty young. But I asked him the other day if he's got any memories of that. He said, I kind of remember being there, but I don't really remember much.
You're talking to some old guy.
Yeah. So, but he's got that, and there's a picture of him in there. So so those are really two pieces of memorabilia. I keep all of my press passes.
Yes, so do I.
I've got them all hanging.
Me too.
Off of a bulletin board, and it's a stack of them.
Yeah.
It's all press passes except the 2 tickets to a thing that I did last year. Was going to the U.S. Open with my son at Pebble Beach. I got my Pebble Beach tickets there.
Very cool. Very cool. I know. I don't get it how people have them signed and they sell them. They mean more.
They mean more to me.
Sure.
I've never bought anything like that.
Yeah, me too.
I've never bought anything like that.
Good show today. Great show today.
Another fun show.
You better have fun tomorrow.
All right. Well, we'll be here with Anthony Gimino tomorrow. We'll be talking college football all day long.
Thanks everybody for listening. Had a great time today on 1030 The Voice.
Hi, this is Jim Click. Tucson's been hit hard by this pandemic. To keep Pima County safe, you need to keep your home. Because of COVID,